First of all, thank you for attending to our today's webinar regarding optimization of project reporting with Asta Powerproject. Today, let me just go to introduction with Asta Powerproject, and I will introduce Mr. Chris Ray as a second presenter, and he will be presenting Asta Powerproject and how to get best reporting with Asta Powerproject. What's the Asta Powerproject? First of all, it's a powerful project portfolio and resource management solution, which is a market in more than 30 years already, and used by large and small companies, construction companies, also IT companies, and use it in different projects in several countries in the world. Why you should choose Asta? First of all, it's easy to use, but extremely powerful. Integrated with ERP systems, cost-effective licensing of options like concurrent licensing or enterprise concurrent, affordable for the planning, provide dashboard reporting, which will be we will talk later. Today, Mr. Chris, International Channel Manager at Electrosoft, will be presenting to us Asta Powerproject and what kind of reports can be generated by using Asta Powerproject. Me, Akmal Jahamraev, Regional Sales Manager at FND site, who is a General Executive Distributor of Asta Powerproject in 80 countries in the world. Here is some of our customers who are implemented and using Asta Powerproject in their project, like Brookfield, Strabag, Skanska, Carillion, or Foster and Partners, and Mace. Here you can see some of our study cases, which is, for example, Mace, where you heard about Vertical City or the Shard, which was which project was scheduled in Asta Powerproject as for Mace as a main contractor of this building. And here's another customer, Pasha Construction, who used Asta Powerproject in a lot of projects which they did in Azerbaijan. Here is our customer from India, Godrej. Godrej is one of the biggest commercial projects in India, and Godrej BKC is developed on 0.2 million square feet of land, and it's also scheduled and run in Asta Powerproject. Here is our Eastern Good Yard project in United Kingdom. Furnace Fabric, also oil and gas sector. Our Asta Powerproject is extremely being used. Now I will give presenter rights to Mr. Chris Ray. Hello, Mr. Chris.
Hi there.
Hello. Here you are. We can start with presenting Asta Powerproject and how we can get extremely good reportings with Asta Powerproject.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. If you do have any problems, just let us know.
Yes, we can see.
There. So I'm going to start off with a blank copy of Powerproject to start off with, and just to talk about some of the reports that we can get out of Powerproject. Now, there's a number of ways we can get reports out of Powerproject, and that will be from itself, so I'm, for example, just going to open up a sample project here, and obviously we have the standard reporting, which is the printing of the screen. And if I went to print, I could get the project there. I can also, if I didn't want to see the Gantt chart, I can actually take the output from the system in there. Also, part of the reporting, and when I'm working on the system, you can see that I have a structure of my program from procurement down to construction with site establishment, substructure, and so forth in there. I can click on each one of these to look at them, but I can also click on selected ones to create a custom output of just those items that I'm looking for. So by doing that, I can then go to print, and now I've got a custom report of the 3 selected sections that I chose. But obviously I could just do one if I wanted to as well, and print that out and see that. So I have the ability, just with standard functionality, to print out and see the information that I've got. The other part, what I want to show you here now, is from reporting, is that if I create myself a new project, and now I have a new project here, one of the things that we can do with inside Powerproject, and one of the features we have here, is I'm able to create a new line. I'm just going to create that there, and I can draw myself an activity on that line. One of the things Powerproject allows you to do is draw multiple tasks on the same line at the same time. So I can draw as many of those as I want on one line. Now, by doing that, it gives me an overall duration of all of them combined, but also these activities are completely separate tasks. They can have their own links, they can have their own calendars, their own resources, their own costs. All they're doing is they're existing on one line. So a good use for these would be the use of, if you have a procurement schedule or if you have a design schedule within your project. And what I can do is, if I looked at procurement, I can have a code library, and the code library allows me to color up my activities, and I can actually put in and set out my colorings for each of those activities, and I can then place those on there. If I just draw some more, a couple more there, in there like so, and I now have multiple tasks on that line, and if I move those together, that could be my procurement item 1, and what this allows me to do is very quickly copy and paste and have multiple procurement items in there. Now, where you normally have this on a program, each of these would have their own line. We here now can have a 7 line with 8 items on each line, very quickly and very easily print out to see where we are. Now, one of the things about a procurement schedule is that I want to look at the start date for each of the relevant items on that line. So in my columns, if I just get rid of duration, I have a start column. Now I want this to be the start column, start date for the design info. So I can quite easily, in the properties of that start column, is change to design info, and I can tell it to point specifically to the design info column. And when I close on that, that's now my design info start date. If I add another date in here, another start date, and I can say this is out to tender, and I can also point that to a code library for under my procurement for out to tender, and so forth. And now you can see the dates in there are representative of the dates on the script, on the schedule. Now this also means that if I change one of these dates, it actually changes the relevant task inside there automatically. So I can quite easily control these in here and have a column for each one. Now, in the standard template of Powerproject, we've already set this up for you. So if I went down to procurement and chose procurement, that has a table already set up that has all of those dates in the set up for you. And as I move these around, or if I change these here, they will change the activities on the procurement schedule. When it comes to printing this out, obviously I can print it out as a standard, or if I wanted to, I can come into here and I can actually turn off the Gantt chart, go to print, and I have my design schedule. In my print options here, I could obviously change it to landscape and so forth in there. So I can have my design schedule inside. So very quickly I can have these outputs coming out, or my procurement schedule, design schedule, coming straight out of the system. So that's one level of reporting that you can do within inside the system. I can save this as a view, so I could save this as a view within this system called and by doing that, I can then go back to it, but I can also go back to my normal bar chart view, and at any time go to my procurement schedule, and it opens it up as I want to see it. Just waiting to see, I think the screen's not displaying that. There we go. So that's displaying again. So I can control it in that way. So that's one level of reporting from within the software on there. As a side note that sometimes people want to look at is with this multiple tasks on the line for reporting, is people want the ability to say, well, actually on that line, tasks may overlap. And if I do that, the software will allow me to have overlapping tasks at the same time, and as long as they're individually linked up within my schedule, they will quite happily work with that. So that's one level of then if I close that down, go back to my my program here, and what I'm going to do here is I'm also going to look at how other information can be exported. Like many other systems, we have the ability, if you wanted to, just to highlight, copy, paste, take the data straight out of Powerproject into another system. But we also have the ability in Powerproject to create tabular reports. So what tabular reports allow you to do is they allow you to, first of all, set up the columns that you want to export out. So I could set up, for example, in here, I may want to see my trade contractor name against each line in there. And I can set up other columns in there, and I've got one here I set up before very quickly, which just tells me the different levels, some costings information in there, some durations and finish dates, and who's working on the tasks. What I can then do is, within the system, I can actually, under reports, and we can provide you a whole range of reports already set up. In here, I can actually go into here and create myself a new tabular report. And with this tabular report, I can then choose what category it's going to go into, sample reporting, and I'm going to call it new report. And I can do a task report. You have many options of types of reports you can choose. I can choose what columns I'm going to have. I'm going to choose the ones I've got on screen. You can apply filters and so forth to it, and the scope of what you're going to choose. I'm not going to go through every one of these. But then once I've done that, I can choose what I export out to. And I can export out to a printer, HTML, CSV, clipboard, XSL, XML, or Excel. Now the Excel one is particularly useful for reporting because it allows you to create reports really quickly, really fast, and very impressive. So if I choose Excel, I can choose an output name. And if I go to desktop and I say new report, and I go next on that, and click on report's now been created, and there it is, new report. If I run the new report, it will run away and it will tell me that it's exported that to my desktop. On my desktop, I have new report XLS here. If I open that up, here is my report with my data that I've chose. Now, at this point, it's not over, it's just very much raw data. Now, what I can do here, I could quite simply highlight it in Excel, and this is where the power comes, because I can then say I want to insert a pivot chart on that data. Notice I highlighted the columns inside Excel, so then if the data changes, it will still include everything. And I can say in here, for example, that I want to look at the different stages and phases of my project. I may then want to say I want to look at the cost values of that, and I can make sure that that's the sum, and it's going to be a monetary value if I wanted to. And then when I do that, that gives me a cost breakdown by each stage of how much it's costing. Now, this is sheet 2. If I create a new sheet called report, and inside sheet 2 I can just right click on this one and say I want to move that to the report. So that gets moved to the report. Obviously in Excel I can play with design and layout as I want. I can change. So that's my cost in there. And if I move this down, I could highlight that a lot. Project report, and by doing that, I can then do that, move that to that place there, go back to sheet 1, highlight it again, insert another pivot chart, and when I go out to here, I then have the ability to say, well, actually this time I want to do it by trade contractor, and let's maybe do costs again in here. Or even if I actually said at this point that I wanted the task ID in there, that gives the number of activities by trade contractor in there. I can then in here change that type, so I may potentially want to show how many activities are being worked on by different contractors, and I can right click on that and I can move that again to my report. Now by doing this, I'm setting up myself a nice dashboard report that I might want to use. It literally only takes less than an hour or half an hour to put a report together in here. And in Excel, all I do is on the pivot options, I tell it to refresh the data when opening, save on that, and then close that down. In there. So I've saved that. Now what happens is when I go back to Powerproject, when I make any changes, so in here if I make any changes to any activities, got a number of ones in there, what I can do is I then just go back to my project tab, reports, sample, and click on new report, and it will re-export the data to that Excel file. I still have it open in the background. And once it reopens it into the background in here, it opens it up and it will update the dashboard. So every time you update it, it automatically does that. Now I'm going to move sheet 1 to the beginning. I'm going to hide the other sheets. So I've got my report like that. And that's ready to roll, ready to create. So I can create a dashboard report for my project each time. Now once I've done that, let's just confirm I've just done that. Save that. Okay. Okay, so close that down again now. What I can then do is, if I go back to Powerproject, inside Powerproject, under my reports and more reports, I can set up this. If I go down to sample reporting, go into the properties, I can choose to output that from there to the template. And now when I run my report, I just go sample reporting, new report, it runs, and as it runs, did I actually do that on the right one? Let me just check. Close on that, close on that. So if I now run that again, that's sample reporting, and do new report, runs, it doesn't even tell me it's created, it just pops up the Excel file with my latest report and dashboard up and working. You could obviously add logos, you could add whatever you wanted to this, but it's a very quick and easy way to create a project report. Now this is, in its very simplest terms, a standard report in here. Now obviously, if you were using Powerproject Standalone, that works quite well. If you're using Powerproject Enterprise, you have multiple projects together. So the advantage with Powerproject Enterprise and having multiple projects together, and if I just close this down, if I open up my group project, I have a simple project here with multiple projects, 4 projects as it is. Inside each of those projects we have a number of activities in there. Some have been progressed, some haven't. And I can export the data to a project dashboard. If I click on the project dashboard there, that will run to the project dashboard, automatically open it up. And when I look at the project dashboard, I can now see how the project's performing, where the project durations are based on each one's, the costs remaining based on each project, and so forth in there. So very quickly, I can see that in there, and the different stages, and how much cost it is by across all projects on each stage. And that's a report that just comes out of it for multiple projects. And that's one. But the other report we can do here is we use an example reports, look at key dates. So what we've assumed that each project has the same number of key dates, or a certain set of key dates that are shared across all projects. In here, if I go to key date report, and again this is just straight to Excel, and what this will do is this will open up my Excel report for key dates, and all it has exported is the key dates, what project they're from, the finish date, the baseline date, and what complete they are in there. And I've got 4 projects in there. And then if I actually look at my report, this now shows me my key dates. And I can see here my project 1, 2, 3, planned and actual, whether it's been completed or not. And this is fully dynamic as a report inside here. Even to the sense that if I actually copied that heading there to that heading there, inside there, so whatever I set this to is what it looks for key dates wise, and this report could obviously then be just printed out and circulated. But very quick and easy way of exporting the data out to be able to see. In addition to this, if I just close this project down, looking at some other reporting options that we have in here, I'm just going to open up my sample project again, one of my sample projects in here, and I'm going to open up the company IT plan. So this is a very simple project that's got multiple projects inside it. What I want to look at my project, and I can obviously drill into here. I can look in the different sections inside here for quickly to see my way around there. But I'm going to go back up to the top level in here. If I just say, I'm going to go back to shared level 1. There is my project. Now I'm actually going to make these into expanded tasks, which you'll see in a moment, just very simply, and then save that. One of the features we have in Powerproject is when we save as, there's a number of formats we can save as standard. Go to the desktop, I'm just going to create a folder there for this called HTML, and I'm going to save out as a HTML file. So the HTML file is a web file, so if I do a save, in there I can include the graphics as JPEG files and export the whole system. If I click on OK, that will now run through and export the whole system out. Now it's done. And then on my desktop I have a folder called HTML and one called Company IT Plan. I open that up and that gives me a web page of my enterprise system, and I can see I've got ERP, finance, program management, timesheet, rollout. If I click on ERP, it allows me to see the contents of that ERP system. If I can then drill down, print out, and review. I need no licenses for this. It just allows me to share this information with people. If I get that to the network, that path is that to be able to see the project plan without having any of the software. So it's just another quick way of sharing the information, reporting on the information to people. So I'm just going to close that down in there. And taking it a step further, if you were looking for reporting externally, there is an option we now have for Asta Powerproject Business Intelligence. And if I looked at my project tab, we actually have an ability to, in a standalone version, to export the data to a Excel file. So I can export the full export, I can choose large export, reduced export, time phase information, or earned value information. So this is going to be similar to what we did with tabular reports, but multiple sheets to Excel. So if I did a full export, I chose this, a file name called full in there, and I then have an ability to delete all the content of data, erase the current planning data that's already in the Excel file, or just leave it and append to it. The advantage of appending to it is also you could append multiple projects to it, so you could have one Excel file with all the data from multiple standalone projects, or you could actually have other sheets in there calculating data on that in there. So if I run an export, it will in the background fire up Excel. Once it fires up Excel, it will then perform an export of a full export of this project to the Excel file. And as it does that, it will create a tab or worksheet for the different types of data. So for example, we'll have one in there for tasks, we'll have one in there for milestones, we'll have one in there for cost allocations and so forth, which means we can then use those to report on. Now, business intelligence here, exporting to spreadsheet, is the first stage. This is where you can play and very quickly put a few reports together to see what type of information you want. But ultimately, business intelligence has a reporter on it that can sit on a server that can point and connect to standalone projects, enterprise projects, and have the ability to report across those projects into a SQL or Oracle database using a reporting tool of your choice, which may mean that you can actually report, have web reports across all projects, even if those projects are standalone project files. So I've now got a full export here, and if I open that up, you will now see at the bottom I have my tab for each piece of information I've got there. There's my projects. It's telling me a list of the projects I've got. If I looked at the project level of data, it tells me the basic information about that. It also gives me some basic information at top level, duration in hours and so forth that we're spending. If I move cumulative, it's got costs in there as well. So what I could do here is, if I wanted to, I could highlight all of this information here. I don't have to do all of it there, and insert a pivot chart on that information. I look at cost in there, and then just change that to that's the cost of my projects and my projects. If I wanted to change that design at all, change. And I can place that on a dashboard again here, and that's just looking at cost by my project of how much it is costing in there. So I can look at just my project, then I look at my milestones and see my key milestones. I could look at my tasks and see my key tasks. I could look at permanent resources to see where my resources are allocated inside here, and I could then look across. I've got my time phased information in here, and my time phased information is, if I highlighted all of that and then I inserted one in there, and then if I actually put this on here, there, I can see my dates, and I can see my, for example, if I wanted to, if I was looking at costs, I can see my costs in here. And if I do some, and there is my cost across my projects. If I wanted to, obviously I could add in, the different projects I wanted to. So if I say project name as a filter, or if I set there, let's move across. It's just very simple Excel stuff that I can do. Here, choose which project I want to look at. If I want to look at the ERP system, that will now show me a cost breakdown across time of my ERP system, and I could dashboard that and report on that. Save this, and then when I re-export it, it will give me an updated version of that. So hopefully everyone can still see that. So reporting-wise, there's a number of features from within PowerProject all the way through to BI and tabular reports inside PowerProject, depending on your requirements. And obviously those reports you create could be filtered out to extract the unique information you want to. But obviously you've also got, within PowerProject, you still have your standard view of resources, costs, and so forth. So for example, I can still have my view here and report with graphs at the bottom showing me my resources and so forth in there. I can still look at this and look finance and graph and see finance and the resources inside there and print those out. So there's a number of formats, a number of ways of getting data, and it all depends on the maturity you have with PowerProject inside the business intelligence side of the software. We have the BI controller, which would sit on the server, and this will allow you to pick either an enterprise project, a single PP file, or a directory of projects. So if you have multiple projects that people work on in PP format and standalone format, you can point this to that folder, and it will just read all the projects in that folder and extract them into a business intelligence database, and then export that data to SQL, which then can be reported on my web reporting tool. Reporting services is one we use as an example, but there can be many other formats that people use. So that's a very brief overview of reporting and the kind of reports you can do. Does anyone have any questions?
Hello, Chris. There is no any questions yet. But
Hi there.
hello. There is no any questions yet, but dear attendees, you can ask the questions if you have any. We would be glad to show, present. How to open up the BI export option? Yes, Sinaon from Qatar is asking. Okay.
Sorry, what was that?
How to open the BI export option? Can you show again the how?
In Powerproject.
Yes.
So in Powerproject here, and I've got version 14 here, which is about to release, which brings us in, that has an option under the Project tab to export it straight to spreadsheet. If I wanted to export the data through the Business Intelligence tool, then that option in here, if I went to all projects, that's Powerproject. In here, this would be this option here, the BI controller, which is a separate installer, but that would go on the server.
Yes, it's not available in 13 version, but soon we'll release 14 version, and there is a module inside of version 14.
Yeah. Modular is available. It's been, as one of the features has been added into version 14. 14 is out in the next month. So
Okay. Anyone has any questions?
is there anything else anyone would like to see about here?
Chris, I think there is no any question.
Okay, some of the things that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
There's no questions.
No, there is no any questions more. Thank you for showing. Okay, there is any, one more question. Have you tried
Yep.
using the export to BI in Microsoft BI Publisher?
So because the export is a so if you just confirm that last part of that question.
There is question. Have you tried using the export to BI in Microsoft BI Publisher?
So because we create either an Excel file or a SQL file, you should be able to just grab that data, and it is just table data and columns and fields that you can use. So it should work just fine on there. I know we've seen people use Power BI and so forth with it. It's just your requirements of it, and that's the advantage, is you can just export to a data source that you want to export to.
Thank you. Chris, thank you again. Thank you very much for showing, presenting. There is no any questions anymore.
Okay, I'm going to say if
have a nice day.
if in here just to show you. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Thank you for attending, all of you. And we recorded our webinar and
Thank you very much.
we shared with all of you. So,